everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to SAVE, a TV show that's brought to you today by Citizens Against Family Violence. I'm Jessica Plasters, the Patrick County Advocate.
And I'm Sandy Dawson. I am the sexual violence case manager for Martinsville and Henry County. I always get stumbled up over my words trying to tell
You don't know who you
I
are
am.
anymore.
Sometimes I do forget.
Yes, I completely agree with you.
Today we have a very special guest with us, Miss Sue Fowler, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I just want to let everybody know that Sue is here to share with us about her journey and her story. She is a victim survivor, and that's an amazing step to take for any victim of sexual violence, to be able to say that they're now a survivor. Mm-hmm. So Sue, again, we appreciate your being here, and can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Well, mine is one that has a lot of twists and turns. It can be very complicated, but the bottom line is that I am, as you said, a survivor. Right. That is the most important word to me in my life, because it's not so much what happened to me as it is how I handled it. And quite honestly, I didn't handle it so well for many years. I had thought I did, and I put on this brave face and lived behind a mask for so many years that I thought I had dealt with it. But I didn't, and it took me over 40 years to understand that I had not completely dealt with it. Wow. And where I went from a point in my life where, as I'm saying, that I thought I had healed, to where a death of a family member, my grandmother, which would have been my father's mother. She was on her sick deathbed, and for whatever reason, it just brought back so many memories that I couldn't stop from coming in my head. And I realized very quickly that I had not completely recovered. And I think you can relate it to a disease, possibly cancer, that a victim who suffered with cancer, even though you've passed your 5-year test, and you no longer have cancer, that still goes with you. The knowledge that you had cancer and you survived it, you walk with that the rest of your life. Even though you've recovered, it's part of you.
And then probably even still some of the fear in the back of the mind.
It does, it is. So that's what survivors live with too. Even though you can heal and completely recover, it's still part of
Still part of you.
It is. So, you have to learn to love yourself, because once you've been abused to the point, well, even sexual abuse, domestic violence, you do lose self-respect, self-esteem. You begin to feel that you don't matter, that you're not valued in any kind of way.
And no self-confidence.
Exactly. So you really need to love yourself first and foremost, and learn to take care of yourself. But I found my healing journey through Citizens Against Family Violence, and I will forever be thankful to you ladies for helping me with that. It saved my sanity, for one thing, and it really turned my life around. And when I'm saying it turned it around, I couldn't be more explanative. It changed my entire life meeting.
I know, because I know you've got a lot of good things going on with I don't want to put you out there, your Facebook.
You can put me out there. I'm very proud of it. Thank you.
You definitely should be.
I am very proud.
You reach a lot of people's lives that
Yeah.
way.
Well, I have a magazine that's coming out, and you guys will be some of the first to see it when it hits the newsstands.
We can't wait.
And I've also done several TV and newspaper articles, interviews, and hopefully, I'm sure we're helping. We're taking steps in getting the word out to other victims and survivors that you're not alone. Right. And I don't know how to really get in people's heads to make them understand that, because when sexual assault happens to you, you do feel very alone. Yeah. And you feel like it's never happened to anyone else, that you're in this by yourself.
Right. And no one else is going to understand it.
Right,
so
right.
Keep it to yourself.
But my story is not unique to anybody else's story. It's just the part that you have to take it one day at a time. You have to heal from the process. You go through things like well, depression, shame, embarrassment, guilt of all kinds. And you just process this. You go through a grieving process because you grieve of something that you lost. And you can recover and heal completely from it and live a normal, happy life. And I'll tell you something too. One thing that I found by speaking out, like we're doing here today, that helps others know that.
Build the confidence to come
Exactly,
forward sometimes.
exactly. And I know that even in the headlines today, there are stories about 3 girls who were kidnapped
I was
and
hearing
have
about
now
that
been
this morning.
saved.
That has just blown my mind.
It just gave me goosebumps just now thinking about it, because these were girls, young girls, when they were kidnapped, and we've yet to see the story unfold. But little by little, and even though this is a horrific case, you can take things like the Jerry Sandusky trial. As bad as that was, it allowed other people to have the fortitude to come forward and speak out with their stories. And lives are saved, lives are changed by doing that. And that is the wonderful part.
Right.
And that's really the reason why we're here today.
That's one good thing about all the national coverage that's
Right.
covering the cases like the Jerry Sandusky trials, but even like the Steubenville, Ohio,
Exactly.
with the rape case with the high school students, the one in California that happened shortly after that, that has made national news now. You know, whenever they hit national, then it helps people to be able to know that it's okay to go ahead and report or to tell their story.
Right.
And then seeing people such as yourself who have progressed on the aftermath with their healing journey to show that it is still possible to recover, that it's not a devastating event that's going to keep
Absolutely.
you down forever.
Absolutely.
But it is work. It's something that you have to be ready for and to get set to take that journey to be able to go forward.
Exactly.
And it is going to take some work and some time. Tell us, Sue, a little bit, if you can, just kind of briefly about what your sexual assault experience involved.
Well, as hard as it is for some people to believe this, I was sexually assaulted by my biological father. I had been given up for an adoption along with my sister when we were very young. I was about 2 and she was about 6 months old. Another family adopted her and moved to Florida. My mother's parents took me, and when I was about 12, I wanted to meet my biological dad. I had known my real mother. I knew who she was and had some kind of a relationship with her, but nothing really personal. And I really wanted to know where I came from, who my parents were. So against their better judgment, my grandparents allowed me to move in with them. They felt that I had the right to know my history. And unfortunately, that was one of the worst mistakes that I ever made, because there lived evil in that house. At 13 and a half years old, was held at knife point. My life was threatened. My family's life was threatened if I didn't do what he said do.
And this is your father
This
you're
is my
speaking of.
father, my biological father. And so that fear, I'm telling you, fear is a great motivator. It kept me silent until I was 19 years old. I finally found the nerve. But the nerve was found out of the fear of living with this man. And the sexual abuse continued until age, I was between 18 and a half, so to speak, so right in there somewhere. And I escaped out of my bedroom window literally in a blizzard one night. And that's how I got away from him. And he continued to stalk me. I had to go through the courts, through the police department, but it was always, back in those days, which was the 70s, it wasn't really thought of as much as it is today. It was kind of swept under the rug, even the legal rug. And
there weren't as many laws in place either to handle it or deal with it like it is today.
Right, absolutely. So I was more or less then on my own. And from then until just a couple of years ago, I dealt with it the best way I could. And one of the worst things was probably the betrayal of it all. Actually, I think that probably hurt me worse than the sexual assaults, because when someone that you love, such as your father, your mother, uncle, grandfather, you have a trust in them. They're the caretakers. They're the ones that you love, that's supposed to love you back. And then their betrayal is so horrific, and you're confused. You begin to think that's your normal. And one day, hopefully, you wake up and you realize that's not normal. So I was one of the fortunate ones. I was able to escape it. And the rest is kind of history. You ladies know all of that. It's just been a daily turning of the page, so to speak, in the book.
Most definitely.
You just get up tomorrow and you work with what you're given that day.
So even though we know where your journey has been for the last couple of years, can you define for us a little bit more? You said that we were instrumental in the beginning at helping you through your journey, but you actually had started your journey before we met.
Yes.
Because you were already taking some steps to change what you were living with
Yes.
at that point. What did you do, kind of like a first, second, third, some things that you did?
I spoke out. I told everybody that would listen to me. They probably got tired of hearing me, actually, but I spoke out. And that's the number one thing that a predator, a sexual predator, uses in his favor or her favor, is your silence. So when you start talking and people start listening, you just pave the way for everybody else. And that was my savior. You gave me the courage, Sandy, to continue from there. And you started, you suggested that I start my own journal.
Right, but you had actually even gone so far as to report to law enforcement.
Yes, I did.
Because I went with you to a meeting that you had with the Commonwealth attorneys, but you had already been pretty far along in the process by the time I went with you to that meeting.
Right.
And let's just kind of go over for the audience what happened when you reported to law enforcement.
Well, I went before the detectives, and they asked me questions, and as hard as it was, I did have to give a formal statement, and I filed charges. I filed charges. My father was passed away at the time, but I filed charges against my mother because she was actually privy to some of this. They call it nowadays aiding and abetting. They took my statement in lengthy detail. They went to her and talked to her. They interviewed her, and they actually thought we had a good case. However, the niche in the whole thing, or glitch rather, was we would have to prosecute with the laws that were available to us when this actually took place back in the 70s.
And like Sandy said, a lot of laws weren't in place
Right,
to protect
and
children.
that's what we ran into. There were rape laws, but the one who actually raped me was deceased. But now we have the opportunity, we had hoped, to deal with people like her, my mother, who was a bystander that allowed these things to happen. So unfortunately, there were no laws that would protect me from people like her then, but there are now. So under today's laws that we have, the improvements that have come about over these last years is that there are laws in place that requires a bystander, that if you know or see.
Mandated reporting.
Exactly. And that's wonderful, because you just can't turn your head and act like it's none of your business, because it is your business. It's everybody's business.
Yes.
And even with that, like we were talking about the Jerry Sandusky trials, that has even caused the mandated reporting system, especially even here in Virginia, to be revamped and additional people added to that
Right.
list of who are now reporters, mostly targeting like the coaches and the school teachers and the people who are in direct contact with the kids when things are going on.
Right.
So that has been a benefit by there being a national recognition about the court case and all the things that happened there.
And as new stuff comes up, it sounds like new laws come up too to
Right.
protect
They
those
do.
cases, which
Right.
is
That's the silver lining out of such a tragedy, is that because of what we learn as we go, we can take preventative steps.
And it
Right.
proves.
And it's amazing how it's changed.
Yeah.
So once upon a time in my days, when one was embarrassed or scared to death to come forward, now it makes it easier for you to have that opportunity.
right.
So at this point, kind of tell us again where you are in your healing journey or in your journey of where you have been to where you are now.
Oh, where do I start? Well, I thank God I've had a lot of doors open for me to help my awareness project. And I speak in organizations, meetings. I'm available. My services are free. I'm just simply a volunteer advocate.
But you've also made a huge presence on Facebook
Yeah, thank you.
and have a tremendous following there.
Thank you.
But that's kind of opened some additional doors
It
for
has.
you between that and your TV interviews.
You talking about the magazine?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I do have a magazine that's due out any day now. It's called Finding Your Voice, Speaking Your Truth, named after my Facebook page.
I was going to say that's the same thing.
Yes, it is. And you're right, I do have a pretty good following. I don't mean to sound like I'm bragging, but it's a
Well, you
place.
should brag
But
a
it's
little bit on
important.
that.
It's important
So
information
you're
that
helping
you're
a lot of
putting out.
people. Yeah, definitely.
Well, it seems to, let me put it this way. I can't take credit for it really, because my wish, as you know, Sandy, when I first started this on my healing journey, was that God would use me as a vehicle to help others. And I had someone ask me just within the last 2 days, as a matter of fact, why are you talking about it now? It happened then. Why are you doing this now? And he couldn't understand it. And I had just recently seen a small little video about the Holocaust survivors. And if you are familiar with that, and I'm sure you are, they tell you never to forget. Now, the reason they tell us never to forget the Holocaust is so that we are aware of how it happens, why it happens, and to prevent it from happening
Right.
again. So that's where I come with my story. And I used my Facebook page, Finding Your Voice, Speaking Your Truth, to make people aware of those things. And I'm telling you, my healing journey through particularly you all at Citizens Against Family Violence has made me realize what life can be like when you get rid of all this baggage that you've carried around for years. And it's like, to me, breathing for the first time. Or maybe seeing color for the first time when you could see, but all you could see was black and white. It's beautiful how life changes. And I know I can't explain it like I want to, but I can just tell you that it's the most freeing,
Like a weight lifted.
it's a happy
Yeah.
freedom that I've never had before. And forgive me if I'm just overexcited, but I tell everybody about it because I want to share with them
Yeah.
that they can do the same thing.
Right. Or if they know somebody
Exactly.
that they can help them to get connected with the right
Right.
people.
Right. Sexual assault, if you follow the numbers, happens to 1 out of every 3 girls and 1 out of every 5 boys before the age of 18.
And that
So-
statistic has definitely moved up because it used to be less, less.
Oh, yes, yes, it has.
It is gradually growing and growing and
exactly.
growing.
If you do that math, we've got to do something
Yeah.
to change this.
Absolutely.
And by us taking steps to change society's input, how we view it as a society, and rather than protect the criminals, we need to focus on the victims and the
Right.
survivors.
Right.
Most definitely. Well, not to cut y'all off or anything, but if y'all don't mind, we'll take a quick commercial break. And Sue, thank you so much for sharing your story. And I know that just by you sharing it today, you probably are definitely going to help someone else's life as well. So,
I pray.
along with everything else you've got
Thank
going
you.
on.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back.
No, 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 no,
You have remote start, you have lane departure, parking assist, navigation, rear camera monitor on it, intelligent key, standard fog lights on your SL package now, alloy wheels.
Hi, this is Wes Mills with Jim Mills Nissan and Jim Mills Chrysler, Dodge, and Jeep. I'd like to invite you to visit with us. We have no games, no gimmicks. We stand behind our vehicles, stand behind our service, and we stand with our community. Come visit us at 4760 Greensboro Road.
Are we insane? A very smart person once said insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. We say we want a clean community, but we keep on littering. We can't solve our litter problem by maintaining the status quo. Only you can make the difference. Stop the insanity. End littering now.
Auto Rehab in Stanleytown. Dependable and trustworthy. Auto Rehab, your area's certified auto repair shop. Using state-of-the-art equipment for all your transmission and engine needs. From the simple oil change, tune-ups, to diesel repair for all makes and models. Auto Rehab is your local, dependable repair shop. Located behind Stanleytown Elementary School. Just follow the signs to Auto Rehab.
You're watching BTW 21, your neighborhood network, the pride of Martinsville and Henry County.
1-800-656-9488. Commercial, residential, and vehicle. The mobile unit is just a call away. Offices located in Oak Level across from Lucky 2 Market on 220. Daniels Auto Glass, when only the best will do.
You're watching BTW 21, your neighborhood network, the pride of Martinsville and Henry County.
Just received a brand new 2013 Ford Raptor. Just only a few in the country. Come see it at Nelson Ford. This baby's got over 400 horsepower, top speed 200 miles an hour. You might ought to fact check me. But this baby is only one of a few. Come see it at Nelson Ford Martinsville, where everybody knows cars cost less.
All right, welcome back to Save. Now, Sandy's going to start with the step 4 of the healing journey. The last couple of weeks we've been going over different steps of the healing journey. So today we're on step 4.
Right.
So just pass it on
We're
to you.
doing that because last week we did run a rerun which repeated step 3. And since we didn't do a new one last week, I'm going to go ahead and kind of recap the first 3. Step 1 was building your support network. Making sure you have your people in place to help you through the process. Step 2 was understanding and believing that it was not your fault. Take back the life that was stolen from you. Step 3 is identifying your own personal boundaries, because you need to know what is acceptable and what is unacceptable to you, and when you need to refresh or reset your own personal boundaries. But in doing so, you have to strengthen your internal core. Know who you are, what you believe, what you stand for, and again, what's acceptable and what's unacceptable. So you're just putting your boundaries in place for protection. So step 4 today, and I'm going to get Sue to kind of help me talk about this a little bit too. Step 4 is writing your story. And it's important to begin that with an acknowledgement of what happened. I was raped, or I was sexually abused. fill in the blank and go from there. Write the way you feel, the way you think, just how you would normally speak. You don't have to write in any fancy words, but write about how it made you feel and how it has affected you over time. Start your journal so that you can have a place to record all your thoughts. Keep that, write in it every day, but keep it in a safe place so that you can record your thoughts and your ideas, and it helps you to be able to go back and see where you've come from. Sue, I know that this has been an important part on your journey.
Also, I was going to say, it sounds, sorry to interrupt you, but when you were telling your story, I had already reviewed this, so I kind of felt like I had heard every little step that you had took within your journey. So
I didn't realize that, but you're right. I did take those steps.
Maybe not in that order, and you know, they might be.
You're right. Everybody does it differently, but I would think that aside from telling someone, to actually even hear yourself verbalize what your story is, what happened, even if, like Sandy said, it's just a simple, I was raped, I was sexually assaulted, whatever that was, and then you go from there. But when you start your healing journey and you start to journal what's happening, it is so helpful just to write how you would talk or how you think it in your journal.
And just to kind of release
Right.
what you're feeling
Release
at the moment.
pain and the hurt and the betrayal, the embarrassment. Every word that you can release that defines how you feel, just write it down. It doesn't have to be grammar correct, just start writing it. And you can write 50 pages in no time.
And the writing is sort of like, it's like the physical movement of getting it out of your head and getting it down on paper so that it's moving it out.
Right.
So that then you can express it and work with it, but it's not just stuck.
Yes, ma'am.
Kind of reliving in your head over and over and over again.
It's also freeing in that you finally let out that secret that you have carried all alone. The secret is on your paper, even if nobody ever sees it. It's freeing,
like you
it's
told
powerful. It is empowering. And now you're well on your way.
Yep. So that's where we are. We've got step 4. And like you said, there's a lot of different steps and everybody goes in different orders. We're just kind of giving some guidelines. So we've just finished step 4. Stay tuned next week and there'll be another step.
All right. Stay safe.
Thank
We'll see
you.
you next Tuesday.